Welcome to NPJR, where we explore the great outdoors one national park at a time. I'm Justin.
And I'm Robin. We encourage you to pause the podcast at any time and discuss some of our talking points or try answering our trail trivias. Today, we are heading to one of the Mighty Five located near Moab, Utah to explore Arches National Park.
Arches National Park protects more than 2,000 cataloged natural arches, freestanding rock spans formed by the patient work of gravity and water in desert stone. Just 5 miles north of Moab on U.S. Highway 191, the park sits on the high desert of the Colorado Plateau between the Colorado River Corridor and the snowy La Salle Mountains. Its over 76,000 acres hold a maze of tall, narrow sandstone walls called fins, rust-red and honey-colored walls, and hoodoos with names that read like a geology poem. Delicate Arch, Landscape Arch, Double Arch, Balanced Rock, The Windows, Fiery Furnace, and Devil's Garden.
Arches is not just scenery. It's an active landscape that's always changing. Step out anywhere on slick rock domes, sandy washes, or in pinyon juniper woodlands, and you're standing in the middle of a long story written in wind, water, and rock. The foundation of Arches is built on salt, sand, and the slow, powerful rise of the Colorado Plateau. Trail trivia. What place holds the world record for largest concentration of natural arches on Earth? Arches National Park.
The story begins over 300 million years ago, when shallow seas flooded and drained this basin, leaving behind a thick bed of salt and evaporites known to geologists as the Paradox Formation. Salt is ductile, meaning it can be stretched or drawn into a thin wire or shaped without breaking. Under the weight of later sediments, the salt flowed, bulged, and collapsed. Those movements created broad domes and deep troughs, gently warping younger layers above. Much later, the entire region rose as part of the Colorado Plateau uplift, raising ancient seafloors and sand seas to altitudes between 4,000 and 6,000 feet.
The arch-forming layers, Entrada and Navajo sandstones. Two main rock units do most of the arch-making work in the park. The older Navajo sandstone is a magnificent stack of ancient sand dune deposits, typically pale cream to pink in color, with sweeping crossbeds that preserve the frozen motion of a Sahara-like desert from roughly 190 to 180 million years ago.
The younger Entrada sandstone was deposited about 165 to 155 million years ago, partly as coastal dunes and tidal flats. In Arches, a quartz-rich sandstone sits atop softer layers, which is muddy and clay-rich. This contrast of hard rock over soft is what sets the stage for the park's distinctive fins, alcoves, and arches.
The journey from fins to windows to arches follows a simple but dramatic sequence. It starts when the salt beds deep below shift and the Colorado Plateau slowly lifts, cracking the sandstone into tall, narrow walls.
From there, nature goes to work on the weak spots. Rainwater seeps into the cracks and dissolves the, quote, glue that holds the sand grains together. Cold nights freeze the water and wedge the rock apart, while wind blasts the walls with sand and gravity tugs everything downward. Softer layers wear away faster than the tougher cap, carving alcoves into the walls.
When two alcoves meet, they form a window. Over time, those windows can stretch and thin into elegant arches. And when an arch grows too slender, it eventually collapses, ending one chapter but starting another, as fresh fins rise and the whole cycle begins again.
This continual change is why Arches feels dynamic. Balanced rock remains upright, but when the pedestal finally gives way, the boulder will topple. Landscape arch, with its impossibly thin ribbon spanning nearly a football field, shed large slabs in the 1990s, prompting closure of the trail beneath it for safety. Here, geology is both creating and erasing landmarks within human lifetimes. Trail trivia. Where is the second largest concentration of natural arches on Earth?
After Arches National Park, the Rattlesnake Canyon Arches in Colorado's McInnes Canyons National Conservation Area hold the world's second largest concentration of natural arches. Located near Grand Junction, this area contains 35 natural arches, including 8 major ones, all formed in a 150-foot-high layer of Entrada sandstone.
First people, 10,000 years on a changing plateau. Human history in the region extends back well over 10,000 years. Early hunter-gatherers followed game across open grasslands when the climate was cooler and wetter than it is today. By around 2,000 years ago, farming cultures emerged, cultivating maize, beans, and squash, while continuing to hunt small game and gather wild seeds.
Archaeological evidence points to multiple cultural traditions whose homelands overlapped in the greater Moab area. The Fremont-era peoples to the north and west, and the ancestral Puebloans to the south and east, lived at the same time, leaving behind rock imagery, granaries, and pottery. While some of their technologies and styles overlapped, others remained distinct.
Later, the region became part of the homelands and migration routes of the Ute, Navajo, and Paiute peoples, among others. Life in this climate of extremes depended on a deep knowledge of springs, seasonal resources, and the cycle of plants and animals. Traces of this continuity are visible in places like Wolf Ranch and along the Delicate Arch Trail, where ancient petroglyphs depict riders and bighorn sheep, speaking to a living cultural landscape. Visitors should view rock imagery with respect, never touch, trace, or apply chalk to the figures, as oils from skin and modern pigments can cause irreversible damage.
Euro-American arrival and the road to national park status. In the late 1800s, Euro-American settlers, miners, and ranchers arrived, drawn by fertile river benches, open range, and nearby mineral prospects. The Wolf family, whose simple cabin still stands near the trail to Delicate Arch, ran cattle in the early 1900s. Meanwhile, photographers, writers, and conservation-minded locals began to share word of the area's unmatched stone architecture.
On April 12, 1929, President Herbert Hoover proclaimed Arches National Monument, initially protecting the Windows and Devil's Garden districts. Between 1938 and the 1960s, boundary expansions brought more arches and scenic terrain under protection, while improved roads and guidebooks drew more visitors. On November 12, 1971, Congress redesignated the area as Arches National Park, granting stronger protection for both its geological features and its cultural history.
In the 21st century, visitation surged, straining the park's small road network and limited parking. In response, the park adopted a seasonal timed entry reservation system during peak months to manage congestion. In 1929, when the park started keeping track of visitation, there were just 500 recorded visitors. In the 2000s, the park averages over 1 million visitors annually, with the record visitation being over 1.8 million visitors in 2021. In 2024, the park welcomed almost 1.5 million visitors.
Flora and fauna. Despite receiving only 8 to 10 inches of rain per year, Arches supports a surprisingly diverse plant community. In the uplands, pinyon juniper woodlands dominate, with twisted pinyon pines and Utah junipers interspersed among blackbrush, bitterbrush, sage, and Mormon tea. Their deep roots stabilize thin soils while providing food and shelter for birds and mammals.
Desert shrublands and grasslands feature four-wing saltbrush, rabbitbrush, prickly pear, and claret cup hedgehog cacti, yucca, globe mallow, and seasonal wildflowers that brighten the sand after snowy, wet winters or summer monsoons. Along riparian corridors, Fremont cottonwoods, willows, tamarisk, and invasive species under active control, and seep willow line washes and riverbanks, offering crucial shade and nesting sites.
Across the open ground, cryptobiotic soil crusts, living communities of cyanobacteria, mosses, and lichens, bind loose sand, fix nitrogen, and initiate soil formation. Because a single footprint can destroy decades of growth, visitors are urged to walk only on rock, in sandy washes, or along established trails. Please help protect these fragile ecosystems.
In the desert, water is stealthy. Most days are dry, yet a few intense storms send torrents through Courthouse Wash and other drainages, sculpting sheer walls and carving out potholes in the bedrock.
In these ephemeral basins, microecosystems burst to life after rain. Fairy shrimp hatch, algae bloom, and tiny invertebrates thrive until the water evaporates. Along the Colorado River, which borders the park's southern edge, cottonwood-lined riparian zones form a vivid ribbon of green and provide critical habitats for birds, bats, and insects.
The park's wildlife is adapted to these desert extremes, with much activity occurring at dawn, dusk, or night to avoid the heat. Desert bighorn sheep traverse the slick rock, while mule deer, coyotes, ringtails, kit foxes, porcupines, jackrabbits, and numerous bat species roam after dark.
Ravens, pinyon jays, rock wrens, black-throated sparrows, great horned owls, peregrine falcons, golden eagles, and seasonal migrants patrol the skies. Reptiles such as collared lizards, side-blotched lizards, gopher snakes, night snakes, and red-spotted toads are more visible after summer rains. Invertebrates, including the specialized species that inhabit temporary pothole pools, keep the desert ecosystem functioning year-round.
Birds are the most visible animals in arches. Even on the hottest summer days, turkey vultures, ravens, and white-throated swifts circle high above the rock formations. In winter, small flocks of juncos and white-crowned sparrows forage around shrubs and trees. While Arches isn't usually considered a birdwatching hotspot, nearly 200 species have been recorded here. Year-round residents, seasonal visitors, and long-distance migrants alike.
Much of this diversity comes from riparian corridors like Courthouse Wash and the Colorado River. In the desert, life gathers where water flows, thanks to the food, shade, and shelter it provides. In spring and summer, these areas echo with songs from blue grosbeak, yellow-breasted chats, spotted towhees, and canyon wrens.
Great blue herons stalk fish in the shallows, while Cooper's hawks dart through tangles of cottonwoods and willows. Away from water, grasslands attract Say's phoebes, black-throated sparrows, and western meadowlarks, while pinyon juniper woodlands provide homes for pinyon jays, scrub jays, juniper titmice, and black-throated gray warblers.
No matter the season or habitat, one bird always seems to appear: the common raven. These jet-black tricksters are smart, vocal, and endlessly adaptable. Scientists have documented their play and problem-solving skills, and cultures across the world, including Native American and European traditions, honor ravens in story and folklore, which we covered in depth in our Canyonlands episode.
The park monitors bird populations in both upland and riparian areas, paying special attention to nesting species such as peregrine falcons. These surveys help measure the health of bird communities in arches and contribute to nationwide studies of biodiversity. Trail trivia: what is the world's fastest animal?
The peregrine falcon, both the world's fastest bird and animal, is one of the most widely distributed raptors in the world. Back-to-back trail trivia. What is the only continent peregrine falcons do not live on? Antarctica. This widespread distribution is one of the most far-reaching of any bird of prey, and the peregrine in their name comes from the Latin word meaning wanderer. Known for their incredible speed, sharp hunting skills, and striking appearance, peregrine falcons are a symbol of power and adaptability.
Peregrine falcons are medium-sized birds of prey with males typically measuring around 14 to 18 inches in length and females slightly larger. They can have wingspans of over 4 feet. They have long, pointed wings, a streamlined body, and distinctive blue-gray feathers on their backs with black speckles. Their sharp, curved beaks and strong talons make them efficient hunters. Trail trivia. The peregrine's record-breaking hunting dive has a name. What is it?
Their high-speed dives are called stoops. Peregrines primarily feed on birds, including waterfowl, songbirds, and shorebirds. When hunting, peregrines will use high-altitude stoops, diving from great heights at speeds that can reach over 240 miles per hour to strike their prey mid-air. This aerial agility allows them to catch even the fastest birds, making them one of the most effective predators. Other animals they eat include small mammals, such as rodents and rabbits, as well as reptiles like small snakes and lizards, and some insects. They are opportunistic hunters, and their non-bird diet is more significant when their main food source of birds is less available.
Peregrine falcons inhabit diverse environments, from coastal cliffs, desert landscapes, and mountainous regions to urban areas. They build their nests, called eyries, on rocky cliffs, tall buildings, or other elevated structures. Most peregrines in the desert southwest, including arches, nest on the park's tall cliffs in spring and summer, breed, and then migrate south in fall to spend the winter in warmer regions of Mexico, Central America, or even farther south. A few individuals may overwinter in Utah if food, mostly smaller birds, is abundant, but that's not the norm.
Peregrine falcons were once on the brink of extinction due to the widespread use of pesticides like DDT, which weakened their eggshells and led to population declines. Through conservation efforts, including the banning of harmful chemicals, protection of nesting habitats, and reintroduction programs, peregrine populations have made a remarkable recovery in many regions.
Peregrine falcons play a crucial role in controlling bird populations, helping maintain ecological balance in their habitats. As top predators, they ensure that prey populations do not grow unchecked, which benefits the overall health of the ecosystem.
Peregrine falcons have long been admired by humans for their grace and power, often featured in art, literature, and traditional stories. In many cultures, they symbolize freedom, strength, and speed, making them one of the most iconic raptors worldwide.
The peregrine falcon is a remarkable bird of prey, known for its unmatched speed, hunting prowess, and adaptability. Its presence in diverse landscapes underscores its resilience and importance in maintaining healthy ecosystems. Through conservation efforts, this majestic raptor continues to thrive, serving as a testament to the importance of protecting nature's most vulnerable species.
I recently read an article by Tom Langen of Clarkson University, originally published on theconversation.com, about the recovery of once rare birds. The peregrine falcon's comeback mirrors that of many other species, and his piece highlighted how conservation efforts, particularly the banning of DDT, have helped populations rebound. Reading about peregrines brought his article to mind, reminding me that while humans often cause ecological harm, Our efforts to correct these mistakes can make a real difference. Here are a few highlights from that article. Thanks, Tom.
Pesticides like DDT, pollution, and widespread shooting once devastated bird populations. Across North America, birds are still in trouble. A 2019 study of 529 species found their numbers had fallen nearly 30% since 1970. By 2025, one-third of all species are declining, and 112 have lost more than half their populations in just 50 years. Yet some species have staged remarkable recoveries.
The merlin, a small falcon not all that different from peregrine falcons, nearly vanished as DDT weakened eggshells and indiscriminate shooting took its toll. After DDT was banned in the 1970s and attitudes towards raptors shifted, merlins rebounded. In Ontario, their numbers have grown 3.5% per year for 50 years, and today they nest widely, even in towns, often reusing crow nests.
The pileated woodpecker, the largest woodpecker species, was once headed for extinction as forests were cleared. They recovered with woodland regrowth and protection. These crow-sized woodpeckers carve large cavities in dying trees, creating vital homes for other species and thriving even in suburban areas.
The sandhill crane, one of my favorite large migratory bird species, tells another success story. Nearly wiped out in the east by wetland loss and hunting, their population shrank to just a few dozen pairs by the 1930s. Wetland protections under the Clean Water Act and conservation easement programs fueled their comeback. Today, over 90,000 cranes live in the U.S., breeding across the Great Lakes, New England, and eastern Canada. Each year in March and again in September and October, massive flocks of sandhill cranes pass through a nearby migration stopover near our home, and watching them is an unforgettable spectacle. Their calls echo for miles and linger in the air long before the birds come into view. It's a beautiful sound that marks the season's passage.
These recoveries, along with those of bald eagles, ospreys, and many others, show that conservation works. When we protect habitats, eliminate harmful chemicals, and stop destructive practices, even species once considered rare or lost can return and thrive.
Arches also supports nearly 50 species of mammals. Desert cottontails, kangaroo rats, and mule deer are among the most commonly seen, though many species are nocturnal or shy, leaving behind tracks and scat as their main calling cards.
The desert favors smaller mammals, which can survive on less food and water and more easily shelter in burrows. Rodents are especially abundant, with 11 different species of mice and rats. Among them, the kangaroo rat is a desert specialist. It survives on nothing but seeds and plants, producing its own water from the food it digests. Even this hardy survivor, though, avoids the heat of day by retreating into cool underground burrows, sometimes sealing the entrance to conserve moisture.
Larger mammals need more room and resources. Mule deer roam widely, and mountain lions, though rarely seen, follow them, with deer making up the bulk of their diet. Desert bighorn sheep live year-round in arches, but they are most often spotted along Highway 191 near the Colorado River. Agile and sure-footed, they climb talus slopes and side canyons with ease. Once near extinction, their populations are recovering thanks in part to healthy herds in nearby canyonlands. On rare occasions, black bears wander down from the La Salle Mountains, usually in late summer or fall.
Arches may not seem like amphibian country, but frogs, toads, and even a salamander species make their home here. They take advantage of temporary pools, springs, and washes like Courthouse Wash, where they breed after heavy rains. Hearing a chorus of toads on a summer night, an echoing song that can fill an entire canyon, is an unforgettable desert experience. Amphibians live two lives, as aquatic larvae like tadpoles and as terrestrial adults. Some, like the Great Basin spadefoot toad, can complete metamorphosis in as little as 2 weeks, racing against the desert sun before the water disappears.
Alongside cacti and sand dunes, reptiles are desert icons. In arches, that means snakes and lizards, often misunderstood but essential to the ecosystem. They keep insect and rodent populations in check and, in turn, provide food for birds and mammals.
Reptiles are ectothermic, relying on sun and shade to regulate their temperature. This low energy lifestyle makes them well suited to the desert, though it comes with trade offs. They can't handle extreme heat without cover, nor freezing cold for long stretches. Many survive winter in hibernation, living off fat stored in their tails.
On hot summer days, lizards are everywhere, second only to birds in visibility. Visitors may spot northern whiptails, desert spiny lizards, or the colorful western collared lizard, basking on rocks. Smaller species like the ornate tree lizard, plateau fence lizard, and side blotched lizard are common too. The plateau striped whiptail is especially unusual. It reproduces without males, each egg producing a genetic clone of its mother.
Most snakes and arches are harmless and avoid people. The gopher snake, often mistaken for a rattlesnake, is the one most likely to be seen. According to the NPS, true rattlesnakes do live in arches. The midget-faded rattlesnake is small but carries potent venom, yet they are shy, mostly nocturnal, and usually retreat when given the chance.
If you encounter a reptile in the park, enjoy the moment, but keep your distance. Life in the desert is already demanding, and a little space helps these creatures thrive.
Desert plants and arches survive through remarkable adaptations. Annuals, such as grasses and wildflowers, have waxy leaves, small surfaces to reduce water loss, and deep taproots or shallow widespread roots to capture scarce moisture. Many survive drought as long-lived seeds, germinating only after seasonal rains. Wildflower displays vary each year, with the best blooms in spring and sometimes after summer monsoons.
Woody plants in the park grow small and widely spaced, limited by water. Once established, they can live for centuries, splitting rock in search of nutrients. Common shrubs include saltbush and cliff rose, while riparian corridors support larger trees like cottonwoods and hackberry.
At mid-elevations, pinyon pine and Utah juniper dominate. Pinyons grow slowly, producing nutritious pine nuts long valued by people and wildlife. Junipers, with their twisting, drought-scarred forms, survive by sacrificing branches during dry periods and conserving water with waxy seeds and scale-like leaves.
Even tiny mosses and liverworts thrive here. Mosses survive years of dehydration, springing back to life within minutes of rain. They help build biological soil crusts that stabilize soil, retain water, and enrich ecosystems.
Grasses also play a key role. Bunch grasses like Indian rice grass and needle and thread grow in scattered clumps, reducing competition and providing food for both people and wildlife. Sod formers such as galleta and blue grama form patches of forage for bighorn sheep and deer. In contrast, invasive cheatgrass spreads rapidly after fire or disturbance, displacing natives.
Non-native species pose challenges across the American West, and arches is no exception. Invasive plants and animals disrupt food chains, alter nutrient cycles, and outcompete native species for limited resources.
In arches, problem plants include tamarisk, cheatgrass, Russian knapweed, and Russian olive. The upper Colorado River, which borders the park, also harbors more than 40 species of non-native fish.
Scientists have long studied the impacts of these species and explored ways to control or remove them. Progress has been slow, however, and invasive species remain one of the most pressing ecological concerns for the park's future.
Counting the arches. Finding arches in this fractured landscape isn't as simple as it sounds. As recently as 1970, official park literature listed nearly 90 arches, less than 0.05% of the more than 2,000 now documented. It took a small community of curious arch hunters to change that.
In 1973, geography professor Dale Stevens launched the first scientific study of the park's arches, creating a standardized system for measuring and recording them. Ranger Ed McCarrick, working in the 1970s and 1980s, joined Stevens and Chris Moore in publishing several key books. Meanwhile, Doug Travers and his sons built their own database, while Ruben Skolnick and Steve Frederick expanded the count even further.
Decades of determined exploration revealed thousands of previously unrecorded arches. Yet with so many hidden corners and fractures in this landscape, one question remains. Have we really found them all?
Rock celebrities, rock formations, and what makes them special. The park's most famous formations each have their own story. Delicate Arch, perhaps the most recognized natural arch in the world, stands alone in a sandstone bowl, its curve shaped by differential weathering along crossbeds. Late in the day, it glows a deep red in the fading light.
Landscape Arch ranks among the longest natural rock spans on Earth, stretching 290 to 306 feet with some sections just a few feet thick. Rockfalls in the late 20th century underscored its fragility. Double Arch features two massive openings sharing a common end, carved from a giant alcove by water and gravity attacking from multiple angles.
The windows and turret arch display classic examples of fin-to-window evolution, their graceful openings especially striking at sunrise and sunset. Balanced rock perches because a resistant sandstone cap rests on softer mudstone. When the softer layer erodes away, the cap will fall.
The fiery furnace is a maze of narrow fins, slots, and hidden arches that requires either a ranger-led tour or a self-guided permit. Navigating it demands careful route finding, leave-no-trace skills, and awareness of fragile soil crusts. In Devil's Garden, visitors can watch the entire fin-to-arch process unfold, visiting features such as Tunnel Arch, Pine Tree Arch, Partition Arch, Navajo Arch, and for those willing to hike farther, Double O Arch and the dark spire called Dark Angel.
Rivers, washes, and no lakes. Arches lacks natural lakes. Water tends to run off fast or hide in bedrock pockets. The Colorado River skirts the park's southern boundary, carving a deep, fertile corridor lined with cottonwoods, willows, and seasonal wildflowers. Its flow is a lifeline for wildlife moving between the high desert and riparian zones. And for millennia, it served as a travel route and resource for people living in the region.
Inside the park, water follows a different script. Brief but intense summer monsoons and occasional winter snows and rains channel into ephemeral washes like Courthouse Wash, Willow Flats, and Salt Valley. These dry stream beds may remain dormant for months, only to roar to life after a storm, moving sand, cobbles, and driftwood downstream in minutes.
Between storms, water lingers in natural rock basins called potholes, where it sustains tiny specialized ecosystems. These shallow pools can host fairy shrimp, tadpoles, aquatic beetles, and a bloom of algae within hours of filling, only to dry again under the desert sun. In shady alcoves, seeps and springs create pockets of moisture that support mosses, ferns, and even small colonies of maidenhair. Such wet places are rare in the high desert and serve as vital oases for birds, mammals, and insects.
Wilderness at Arches. Although Arches has no officially designated wilderness, most of the park, over 70,000 acres, is recommended for wilderness protection. Wilderness here is not empty. People have lived in and moved through this land for thousands of years.
Much of Arches is considered backcountry, including four-wheel drive roads and undeveloped areas. Recommended wilderness, however, is set back from roads and developed trails, managed to preserve, quote, wilderness character. This includes qualities such as naturalness, solitude, primitive recreation, and cultural value.
Wilderness offers ecological, cultural, and personal benefits. It protects ecosystems, historic sites, and habitats while giving visitors opportunities for solitude, discovery, and challenge. Backpackers in Courthouse Wash, canyoneers in Lost Spring Canyon, and climbers at Courthouse Towers all experience wilderness differently, but all share the quiet, self-reliant nature of this landscape.
Even those who don't venture far can feel its intangible qualities. Sunrise at Delicate Arch, sunset over the La Salles, or stargazing under some of the darkest skies in the region.
Preserving the night sky. For thousands of years, people looked to the stars for guidance, ritual, and meaning. Celestial movements shaped farming, ceremonies, and stories, and the sky was often seen as the realm of the gods. Today, many of us take this connection for granted. Surrounded by artificial light, we rarely experience the vastness of a truly dark night.
Light pollution now hides the stars from 90% of the world's population. Even around Arches, nearby towns are beginning to dim the park's skies. Streetlights, billboards, and security lamps wash away one of humanity's oldest shared wonders.
The good news: solutions are simple. Shielded, low-wattage lighting directs light where it's needed, saves energy, reduces pollution, and restores the night sky. Arches has embraced these practices. Nearly all of the park's fixtures are night sky friendly, keeping trailheads, campgrounds, and facilities safely lit while preserving darkness elsewhere.
Thanks to these efforts, Arches National Park was certified as an International Dark Sky Park in 2019. Protecting this resource is more than practical. It's cultural, scientific, and deeply human. Under Arches' vast starry canopy, visitors can still experience the same awe that inspired ancient skywatchers. A quote by Enos Mills. Within national parks is room, glorious room, room in which to find ourselves, in which to think and hope, to dream and plan, to rest and resolve. Enos Mills was a naturalist, a writer, a speaker, and a conservationist best known as the father of Rocky Mountain National Park. This sentiment captures why we started this podcast and gives us a chance to reflect and remind you of our passion for connecting with nature. From the grand landscapes of national parks to smaller park units and even the local green spaces in our neighborhoods, these places matter. They're worth visiting, protecting, and cherishing.
National parks are fun to visit and even more fun to share. Today's Junior Ranger activity is a challenge. Help spread the word about our parks and why they deserve protection. Think about who you might tell: a friend, a neighbor, a relative. Your challenge is to share this podcast with at least one person after today's episode. Learning about national parks is the first step toward advocating for their protection and ensuring their enjoyment for everyone.
Remember to visit the park website and secure your timed entry ticket when required. If your time is limited, prioritize the sites most important to you. Arches can be driven in about 3 hours if you spend roughly 10 minutes at each viewpoint, making it possible to see a lot in a single day. Now, how Robin spent her time in the park.
On my visit, I went with my friend Kim. We started with Delicate Arch, one of the most famous geologic features in the world. The hike is about 3 miles round trip and takes around 2 hours. It's a steady uphill climb with 480 feet of elevation gain, no shade, and a difficult rating, so it's best to start early in the morning for cooler temperatures and easier parking. Along the trail, you'll pass the Wolf Ranch cabin and a panel of Ute Indian petroglyphs. It's about a 30-minute drive from the visitor center, and when I arrived around 8 a.m., the parking lot was already almost full. Once you reach the arch itself, be prepared for people lining up to take photos. Next, we hiked the Tower Arch Trail, which turned out to be my favorite. The trail begins after an 8-mile unpaved but manageable gravel road that most vehicles can handle. There were only a handful of cars there, and by the time we reached the arch, we had the view entirely to ourselves. The trail is 2.6 miles round trip with 600 feet of elevation gain and takes about 2.5 hours. Rated moderate to difficult, it is mostly in the sun, but we did this one midday when the Devil's Garden parking lot was full. The solitude and view through the arch were stunning. We also visited Landscape Arch in Devil's Garden, a short and easy 1.9-mile round-trip hike that takes about 50 minutes. This arch is the longest in America, and its span is truly impressive. The Devil's Garden trailhead is the farthest from the visitor center, about a 45-minute drive, and parking is usually easiest later in the afternoon and evening. We had no trouble finding a spot. You can do the full loop here, but just seeing Landscape Arch is worthwhile. For food, I highly recommend Milt's Stop and Eat in Moab. The malts are made with milk from local Swiss brown cows raised at the McClish family dairy in Spanish Valley. I was told the burgers are the best around, and the veggie burger was excellent too. In addition to the major hikes, there are at least 8 shorter, easier trails worth exploring. Balanced Rock, a 0.3-mile round trip, is quick, easy, and gives you a close look at one of the park's iconic formations. For sunset, great spots include the Balanced Rock picnic area, the Windows section, Garden of Eden viewpoint, or Panorama Point. We chose Double Arch in the Windows section and were rewarded with a beautiful evening view. We stayed in the Moab Rim Camp Park camping cabin just 15 minutes from the arch's entrance. The cabins were comfortable, the staff was really friendly, and it was a convenient base for exploring the park. Other camping options nearby include Canyonlands National Park, which has 2 campgrounds, Islands in the Sky, Willow Flat, with 12 sites, and the Needles with 14 sites, both first come, first served. The Moab region also offers 26 Bureau of Land Management campgrounds, all first come, first served, with picnic tables, fire rings, and vault toilets.
Arches is a land where stone bends like time itself, where sunrise paints the cliffs in fire, and dusk settles softly through windows of rock. Each trail, each arch, is like a portal into both the Earth's deep past and our own fleeting present. I can only imagine that to walk here is to be reminded that nature is both delicate and enduring, and that these red desert cathedrals are treasures worth protecting, visiting, and remembering. I can't wait to see it with my own eyes.
If you haven't visited Arches yet, we hope this inspired you to add it to your bucket list. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, share, and follow us for more outdoor adventures. And to all you Junior Rangers out there, good luck on earning your badge. And hey, if you've earned a Junior Ranger badge recently, send us a picture. We'd love to see it.
And if you want, feel free to share your latest story from your time in a national park unit. Who knows? Maybe we will mention it in one of our upcoming episodes. Be sure to include in the email that you grant us permission to share your story. I'll include our email address, npjrpodcast@gmail.com, in our show notes. And feel free to follow us on our adventures on Instagram at NPJR Podcast. Until next time, happy trails, and remember, the Earth is ours to explore and protect. So let's get out there and do it.
Explore
Learn.
and protect.